can make a career drawing weird shit, and I did.
Not everybody knows that you're, one of the maestro behind this whole brand universe of Brewhalla and Drucker's.
I wasn't a creative person to start with. Like, the air was different. It was just like, I shouldn't be here anymore. Drucker's building this $20 million hotel thing, and it was
that could be interesting.
That sounds awesome. I should pursue that. It was like mind blowing to me that you have all these creatives in town. You have little studios and agencies. Nobody had proactively been like, I want this work. Just once you get to the good spot, you're like, I don't want to mess this up.
Before we talk about like Brewhalla and Drucker, and the work that people can tangibly and physically see, I kind of wanted to know, and you and I have talked about this maybe over a couple of beer meetings, but I just kind of want to know who like Nathaniel is, before all these things. There's no title, there's no career changes and big moments of design being scripted or being scribbled or whatever it is. So I kind of know who is that Nathaniel underneath all those things.
So how far back are we going?
As far back as you're comfortable sharing. I mean, go back to childhood if we can, if that pulls thoughts for you to.
Oh, a little bit. I was looking at some of the like warm-up questions. I went back to like being a kid, and trying to figure out, did I end up where I am because of those childhood situations, or was there something in me before? But I do actually believe this, that I wasn't a creative person to start with.
Okay.
I was always like a goofy, inquisitive kid in person, and a huge part, I think, of who I am has to do with growing up in a little town, a small rural like farm community. And I think from the beginning, though, I was not that rural farm kid. Okay. So being in a small town and bored, it forced me and my friends to be creative in any way that meant, of like, building jumps in our garden for our bikes and ramps in the driveway and starting fires in the dump next to our house and stuff like that. But I think a lot of that's that is where my trajectory really started, was growing up in that small town, left my own devices, and not always feeling like I fit in with the community I was in. Yeah.
I think optically, right? I know how creative you are, and I think your outfits and the way you express that in your art definitely
didn't realize we were going to be recording. I don't know why that didn't cross my mind.
No, so, I can dig it.
Someone said I was wearing a dress turned into a shirt today. So
when you think about like your friend group going back in time and when whatever elementary and middle school that we're talking about here, who were you in that friend group? Like were you the leader? Were you kind of a follower? Were you a thought provoker? Like you can maybe mention a little bit.
I don't think we had like the leader type. We were all kind of our own misfits in ways.
Sure.
Like we had the one kid that was making beats and music. The other kid that was, tooling on his car and stuff.
Okay.
You had me skateboarding BMX.
Yeah.
Then we had the metal kid, super into music, and I think we found just the friendship in that we're all so weirdly different.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say we weren't like the outcast kids or whatever, but
yeah,
I think I kind of fit in, I guess, kind of the mischievous one to it. I think looking back, I was always the kid that was like, let's go climb on that roof and throw things off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think too, the kind of just pigeonholed as the creative kid because I could do some stuff that they couldn't. But I don't want to make it sound like I was a mischievous brat or anything. But I think I was always just looking for the fun thing to do on the border of getting in trouble in our little town.
Pushing the limits.
Kinda, yeah. But I think that's also why I like the BMX and skateboarding stuff, is because I kind of was an adrenaline junkie,
Yeah.
like any little boy.
Right. I can relate to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So when you go back to small town, an eclectic grouping of friends, I mean, I know what it's like to be in a small town. You know, I grew up in a metro close to the cities.
Yeah.
Mom and dad grew up in Carrington, town of 2,000 people, maybe max right now. I mean, maybe give us a little bit of ecosphere of what that small
Oh,
town
totally.
looked like, and maybe what the norm was for you guys in
Mm-hmm.
that town of people your age.
Uh, like this town was even smaller than Carrington. It was like,
Okay.
I think the sign outside rolling in was like not even 500. So it
Wow.
really was like just farming.
Yeah.
And then the one little community where I think it was probably built around a grain elevator and some
Mhm.
stuff. So it was a lot of sports, uh, yeah, the farm kids, and then just a smattering of, we lived really close to Red Lake,
Mhm.
the Indian
Yeah.
reservation.
Yep. So way up north, yeah.
Way up north, and I can't remember. There's just a weird mosh podge of like all the kids from all this area came in,
Right.
and so it was like everything,
Mhm.
you know, like socioeconomic differences was like
Yeah.
night and day different too. And
Right.
looking back, I think partially it was just being young and naive, but I didn't see those
Differences as
really
much. Yeah.
because of that.
Mhm.
Where I think in a bigger community it would have been more obvious.
Mhm.
Yeah, that probably didn't answer that very well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So then, I mean, when you think about, you know, trying to bridge this gap of where you're at now and where you were at before, I think, you know, the brand that you've created for yourself of what you create is innately different, which now is paying dividends. I mean, real, you know, real monetary dividends. I mean, I guess, was that something that was maybe, you know, more accepted as you went on in life through like high school and college age-ish years, young 20s, or maybe talking through kind of how that transpired, or whether you kind of stuffed it down more, you like owned it more as you went through life?
yeah, definitely owned it more as I got older and just
Mhm.
more, confident in who you
Yeah.
are. And talking about like the odd friend group of like into the metal music, and at the
Mhm.
time it wasn't cool to be a skateboarder and
Sure.
into that stuff.
Yeah.
So you did kind of have this timidness to some of it, but
Mhm.
it wasn't until I got a little bit out of school and into I guess the real world is the cheesy way to put it,
Sure.
to see how differentiating yourself had immense benefits.
Yeah.
Like before that, it was like, don't step out of the line too much.
Yeah.
And then I think it just takes some life moments, and yeah, like you kind of, like you said, of you can monetize in a way a style or a talent or skill or whatever, and
Mhm.
and then it's kind of just like sky's the limit once you get mature enough to be like, oh, I know who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what else? I mean, what were some of the other, do you have any early inspirations or aspirations of what you maybe thought you wanted to create, if you even wanted to create things back then? I know you mentioned, we weren't like the super overly creative person that just was beaming with where you're at now back then.
Honestly, I I don't want to make it sound like I didn't have any inspiration to go do things, or
Mm-hmm.
I was so into BMX and music,
Yeah.
that I kind of had this idea of just following that wherever it took
Mm-hmm.
me. And even when I formally got into graphic design, I still 100% thought I was going to end up somehow in the music industry.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, well, I'll end up east
Back
west
there.
somehow,
Yeah.
and then just kind of go with the flow. So I really did just kind of have this see where I end up
Mm-hmm.
mentality for a long time.
Yeah.
And it took a bit until I could, I don't want to say have goals, but like see a place you could end up and try to fill in the steps to get there,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of moments where I would have been just like pivot. Oh, this is neat. Pivot. Or if someone had presented me like some weird opportunity to go do something, I probably would have. So there was a good chunk there where who knows what I could have ended up doing. You know, like if at times I could have worked in the BMX industry, or it just depended on the day and the moment you asked.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to go do this?
Nothing wrong with that. So then, I mean, do you think, you know, trying to bridge a little bit of a gap here, right? Of, you know, do you think that sense of, you know, I don't want to say not belonging, but just not quite finding the mainstream river to flow in when you were growing up has maybe influenced some of the decisions that you've maybe made later in life about just how you look at the rigidity of what life should be as defined by where you grew up, or what has been influencing around you, or social media, or I don't know, all those different things, right?
Yeah, because I don't, not to age myself, but you know, social media didn't exist in any form.
Yeah.
You know, early on, I think I still at least had a vision of I didn't want to end up in a cubicle wearing a suit and tie.
Yeah.
You know, for sure I was not going to do that.
You knew that point.
Like I needed to do something hands-on. Even though I didn't think of myself as creative yet, it needed to be still kind of a creative challenge. You know, like not that I was horrible at math and those things, but I just, you know, you just know, like the left brain, right brain, like I'm not going to crunch numbers. I'm not going to look at spreadsheets and stuff like that. So at the very least, I wasn't going to let myself start heading in that direction. And I had kind of mentally prepared myself for having to live as frugal as I can.
Sure.
You know, like even my first apartment, like I had no furniture. I had like a blanket as a chair in a living room with a TV on the ground, and I was living my best life then because I was doing whatever I wanted. Yeah. And I would have been fine living that way forever if I had to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen some social media memes about like peak male existence, and it's literally like that. It's like it's like a blow up mattress and like a TV with the box that it came in as like the stand, and like paper plate and a glass of wine or a beer or something like that. And it's like, this is all a man.
The more crap you have, the more you have to think about and take care of, and you know.
Yeah, right. You spend all your other time on something else.
And it's usually a girl though that you want to try to like look like
fix
I have it together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, when was the first time that like graphic design or curating or creating things maybe made its way into your life after maybe BMX or the music world kind of, or maybe that introduced it? I'm not sure.
I've had to kind of think about this a few times from just like talking to students and stuff. So the not insanely long version is, I remember my parents bought our first home computer from a neighbor, and I think it was, which came first, Napster or LimeWire?
I think Napster.
So anyway, I was making mix CD after mix CD.
Let's go.
And started making the jackets. Like my mom would buy like the blank jewel cases, and we had the little kit where you could put the sticker on and all of that. And I started making designed cases for my mix CDs.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah, and it kind of was the first moment where because I would be doing it for hours, way late into the night, like, and couldn't really quite put my finger on why I was loving it so much, because it wasn't like drawing. You know, it almost was like Microsoft Paint. So it was like these sucked too.
Yeah, but, grain of salt on that.
But it was. I was probably, I don't know, 16, 17, and it was the first click a little bit of there's more to this, and then that's when my mom started pushing a little bit of like, you know,
could be something here.
There could be something here, and she always said too of like, you gotta somehow use a skill in whatever you do, because she didn't want me to, you know, end up breaking my back over, you know, crappy low paying jobs like you know, we had seen happen to, you know, some family and friends, and you know, use your skill and brain and whatnot. But that was kind of the first click that I was like, there's something fun here. I of course had no idea on how it could turn into
convert that to something that paid money. But you're like,
that was the
I
first time
this.
Something clicked.
Yeah.
You know, because I was always doodling and doing stuff like that, but that felt different. And maybe it was like the packaging part of it.
Sure.
It was from screen to real world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the music connection was there too, because I was, I would make, like, what's just a stupid example? Like, this is the emo mix or whatever,
Yeah.
or the chill mix or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I would make the jacket to fit the mood of the music.
Right.
And I think that is the tie into graphic design of like, you were designing with purpose. And I still do that now of like, I'll put on music to try to get a specific aesthetic or mood to try to put you.
Absolutely.
And I think that was the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go back to your mom, maybe tell me some more about how she helped influence things to where they're at today. Sounds like she was kind of a curator of do what you maybe like believe you want to do, but let's make it useful for you at the end of the day. Or
Yeah, both my parents definitely were. I think my dad too really was the one that instilled like, don't do what I did.
Sure.
Like he had some, I don't want to say regrets, but I think he maybe settled in some ways that
Sure.
he didn't want me to do. Like, I think that's all parents though, of like,
And that's cool to hear that though, right?
yeah. And kind of the same with my mom too, of like, she saw the benefit of using skill and talent of, it's going to take you further than just, oh, this pays well and I can survive here. And before you know it, 15 years goes by and you haven't invested in anything other than some other person's company. So they were always kind of hinting at that, both of them in their own different way. And at the time it wasn't like, like I'll do what I want to do, but it definitely did, I think, sit with me beyond just that.
Yeah. Do you think that was like the norm of like maybe like what your friends' parents were hearing or your friends were hearing from their parents like at the time? It seems pretty progressive in a town that small to be able to...
honestly, no, because all my other friends and their parents would even ask me of like, where are you going to school? What are you doing for school?
Yeah.
Like, are you applying to schools? I feel like that's all you heard. And to the point where I remember, like, I didn't take SATs or any of those things. And they were all like, what are you doing? Like,
you're throwing your life away or something like that.
You will have no... Even I remember our school counselor kind of in a not so nice way was like, what are you doing? Like, you are... this is your moment to
amount
set
to something.
A course.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll figure it out. And my parents didn't pressure me to like have a route of like, you must go to school and learn something. It was more topical of like, use what you're good at and, whatever that is, work hard and whatnot. So it's funny now that you say that, I didn't really connect those dots of like, I had a very different push compared to all my friends and stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, your nonchalant, go with the flow, vibe, was that something that's kind of always just been Nathaniel, or is that a lesson learned at some point in time or progressed more? I mean, it sounds like it was pretty early on, obviously talking to a high school, guidance counselor of, you should probably do something different than this. And you were like, oh, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm not like that anymore. Like, I'm way more intentional and trying to think down the road of, if I want to end up here, what needs to happen between. I think at the time I was just young and naive and so ingrained into the things I loved at the time, which was music, bikes, and drawing, and I just couldn't think past that and didn't. Plus, when you're young too, it feels like being the adult doing grown-up stuff is so far off. Like, I'll get a real job someday. But like I said, I was prepared to just like, actually, this just popped into my head. This is a good example of how far I was willing to wing it. I kind of had a pact with my best friend at the time that we were going to buy a van, live in the van, and drive wherever we felt like driving after high school. And I still think if he didn't have a serious girlfriend at that certain time, I was 100% prepared to do it. Put our bikes and boards and, the little that we owned and just end up somewhere. Like, I mean, I'm glad that didn't happen, but there is a part of me of like, what if, like, where would I be living? What would I be doing? Right. I don't know. But
I
that's
mean,
how prepared I was to go with the flow.
I mean, but I mean, do you go back and regret any of the choices or the lack of intentional direction early on?
Well, now I don't because
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for where I ended up.
Right.
But I think if roles reversed, if I were my own parent, I would have been scared for my
A little concerned,
scared
maybe.
for my son.
Yeah.
Like, but no, I honestly don't. I mean, there's little dumb things like
Yeah.
I
Wish that way
wasted
went
time
to
doing that, or I shouldn't have wasted time doing that. But
Yeah.
by and large, no.
No, absolutely. I mean, one of our first official hire we ever made was his name was Zadok. He was 19 years old at the time, and then he like just turned 20. But he did the same thing. He like turned 21. He worked here for like 2.5 years. He gave me a 6-month heads up, like, hey,
That's really
I
nice.
think I think I'm living in the Midwest at some point in time forever, but I'm 21, and I'm like, don't you have to like just stop there?
Yeah.
Do it. Like if I was to go back at 21 and I've had a job and he had a full ride scholarship to UND to play the viola, got into drones, learned he liked the cameras on the drones more, and now so going back, sorry, not to skip over. He then packed all his stuff up in his sedan, his little car, drove up out west to the coast, drove back down, went over, ended up in like the Carolinas. And now he's traveled the world with Mr. Beast, and he's like one of like their lead like video people on his team.
See, that to me is like an awesome
Because
story.
you never know,
yeah,
right? Like
you're gonna
God,
meet
with the freedom of
people.
being 19 again or 18 again, and like no societal pressures
Yeah.
other than to experience the world.
I think at least that was probably part of it too. Is growing up in the small town, I knew what I didn't know. Like I needed to get out there and meet different people and different things.
Yeah.
For sure. Even thinking, now you're kind of reminding me of more things of when I had at least decided I was going to go to school for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I was just going to learn the programs for design. I was saving up to buy a computer, and I was working as a telemarketer.
Okay.
At the time, I was making what I thought was grown-up money.
Okay.
Because I worked with like 30-year-olds who had been doing this for years. And
Yeah.
they were like, "What? Why? I mean, this you're making good money. Why change it?" And like,
You're like, okay.
there was a moment where I was like, "Should I bother doing anything else? Like, I could pay for a really nice apartment and all my bills
have all
easy
your
doing
stuff.
this and ride bike all day every day." But so there was like a moment where I maybe might have caved on a little bit, and yeah, you reminded me of that. That was like, thank God I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Selling Verizon long distance.
You probably would have gotten your way out of it at some
Yeah,
point in time,
I'm
or
sure,
got
like,
yourself
6 more months of
canned
it.
or something.
Yeah.
You would have worked your way out of that.
Yeah, I would like to think so, but
Yeah.
I do remember thinking like, wow, this is a lot of this is the most money I've ever made in a week. And
Right. It's like, wow, like,
yeah,
why change it, I
Yeah.
guess, but obviously, thankfully, you did
Yeah.
change it for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of people, I'm sure, thank
Yeah.
you too. So then, moving into, more present day, right? More about the brand that you've helped build and has maybe helped build some of your portfolio up and maybe a somewhat of a similar nuance. But looking at, one piece of what you create, like when you're building a label that maybe feels absurd on the surface, right, in face value. What are you like actively calculating behind the scenes as you're going through that process?
oh man. Without getting in so much detail that I sound insane, I'm kind of stepping back quite a bit and looking at, I'm working for this company. This is the brand. This is kind of where it feels like it's going over time. And I'm then kind of zooming back in and just trying to keep on that path to a degree. I think I've said too, like each label to me is like a little mini story. So I'm really kind of in that headspace of, if I were to see this for the first time and had no idea who Drecker was,
Yeah.
how might I interpret this?
Right.
And then that corresponding with the graphic and the name, and kind of try to keep it about, because you could, any designer or artist or whatever, you can get in your head and overthink anything wildly.
Yeah.
So I think the brunt of it is I'm just constantly zooming back out, looking
Mm-hmm.
at what I'm doing, and then getting back in, doing the work, and just trying to make sure I'm on the right path or under whatever this brand umbrella
Mm-hmm.
is. And I think that's something I do well with anything I'm working on.
Yeah.
I think because I've been at Drucker for a while now,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I might be pigeoned a little bit as like, this is what your style is, or this is what you do.
Yeah.
But I still do a lot of other work too, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at getting into whatever that client's space is, and
Mm-hmm.
doing what is right for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, just speaking of labels, that's kind of my MO on it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting when you talk about being able to zoom in and out. That definitely is as I believe is an earned trait and skill to not just dive straight
Oh,
down to the
yeah.
bottom of the funnel and go, okay, here's some inspiration that I saw that could make this look cool. You're still trying to think about, like, let's slow down, slow is safe and safe is fast.
Totally.
Maybe at what point in time did you kind of understand that cadence of that's going to save me time, it's going to create a better result, I'm going to be happier with the way I'm interacting with my clients, and the end result of the way people then perceive that product and the way it's designed? I mean, that cadence to me is something that I've had to learn, well, especially being on a small team or being a solo person a lot of times.
I probably would go back to like my first real job was like in the agency world.
Okay.
And I think it was there where you learn to dissect yourself too from what you're doing. And you're so gung-ho and excited to create cool stuff that you put yourself into it too much instead
Totally.
of thinking of what are you trying to accomplish, who you're talking to, all those marketing things.
Yeah.
And just learning the lesson the wrong way of like being so excited to show a client or your creative director something,
Yeah.
and then to have them be like, this is cool looking, but
What is this?
why? How does this connect to this consumer? How does this connect to, and just
Yeah.
learning it the wrong way of.
Absolutely.
And I think learning that early on was such a good thing, because I don't think of myself as an artist at all.
Sure.
Honestly, think a designer is communicating and doing stuff very intentional. Even no matter how insane some of the stuff I'm making
Looks, right.
I'm doing it for the people who love our brand. That's who I'm always thinking of.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I learned those things early on to not. I'm not making things for me.
Right. If you were to go back to yourself right now, and it was agency you, what were what would be some things, some people might be watching it, right, that might be in that space, or that might be starting their own business, or they thinking of trying to go on their own, or even just taking clients on the side outside of their agency work, wherever they work. What would be like, one sentence or a paragraph you would write that person of just, hey, here's me, and here's some things that I'd maybe say to you now?
Thinking of my 22-year-old self, I think I would have just said, slow down and kind of observe and just take it in more, and intentionally watch what your senior workers are not senior workers, but
just
senior
above
level,
your level or whatever.
are doing. I think I just moved too fast and was making mistakes, and like I said, getting too much in the work. I should have just slowed down and watched more of what they're doing and why, and kind of the classic young person mistake.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would probably tell somebody to do is, I know your career and it feels like everything's going so fast, but if you can slow it down and be more intentional about what you're trying to learn from who and why, and see who's doing things right.
Yeah.
And maybe that would have been something too. I wish I would have selected more mentors.
Sure.
And maybe not literally ask them like, will you
Right.
teach me what
Informal
but
conversations that are
yeah, but
structured to some degree.
I should have done that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. You're here now.
yeah.
So again, going back into, just label something to get our feet wet into it, um, and maybe it's labels, maybe it's something different. Maybe just walk me through something that you're designing right now, and like, where does humor exist within this or enter the conversation, and maybe what are some of the other decisions based on whatever you're designing right now contextually that you can talk to me about what shaped that end product and the way it looks at the end of the day.
I guess a good one without giving too much away. There's
Yeah.
creating a brand for like a Icelandic, I don't want to say deli,
Okay.
or be soup and sandwiches and things
Sounds
like
cool.
that. It's kind of the traditional, like I sat down with them and we made a brief together,
Mm-hmm.
and very intentional about getting it in writing, written down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like we both understand and agree what we're doing. And I have just, what would be the best way to put it? Because I still want to interject, my knowledge and style and
Mm-hmm.
experience into the project, but at the same time, I'm still so conscious of what their expectations are and hopes are, and try to meld those two together. Within that, though, behind the scenes, I like to call myself just like an Uber explorer. Like, if someone saw like my art boards and stuff, the amount of stuff that I do that no one ever sees, because I'll get an idea in my head, and even though I know it's probably not right for the client or the direction we're going in, I kind of have to get it out, and I'll spend an hour or two making this thing that I know is never going to exist to get it visually out.
Yeah.
It's almost like I need to see it to be able to be like, that's not the right direction.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of always exploring behind the scenes, and then, I'm able to whittle it down, kind of that zoom in, zoom out thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can zoom out, look at all this stuff I made, kind of revisit the brief, our conversations, and then you try to your best to picture all the demographic. We're located in this city, what the product they're going to be selling, and try to filter through all that. And then you can whittle it down to, these 2-3 options are checking the most boxes.
Right.
And then I'll tighten those up, and that's usually what I present. That's kind of the process for everything I do. Depending on the budget, that might be really condensed, or I might waste, spend 40 hours doing that. Just depends, but give or take, that's kind of always my process.
Yeah. And it really seems that you have an earned and learned ability to put the client in the solution at the forefront versus what you innately want to create.
Yeah.
When you think back to your agency self and your young blossoming 20s, when do you think that really changes for some people, or what do you think it takes to truly understand more of like a director level? Because being just a designer or a video or an editor, it's far different than being at a director level. I mean, there's a clear difference of years and experience and ways that they're interacting with a client or person. But maybe talking about your own experience in that and what you think other people might benefit from that experience.
I don't know if this would be something I would say is the same for everybody, but for me, it was when I started doing my own projects, it's where I had to take on the everything role, and you get to see that other side of like, we have the cool design part, the visuals, and then when you start having to think of the bigger picture, you can put yourself in their spot of where a client or somebody, where their mind is going to be going, and that helped me a ton. Into like thinking of an agency, sitting in the meetings where you have 15 people in the room and you hear smarter, more experienced people than you, bringing up questions that you're like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. Like, but I think it was when I did some of my own side projects and things that were for me,
Mm-hmm.
where I had to do everything.
Yeah.
That helped a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond just the good old experience and time answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A little extra gray hair, maybe.
Yeah.
I've
That
heard
too,
that.
yeah.
Heard that a couple
Basic.
times. You know,
Yeah.
we were talking with one of our nonprofit clients, and I was like, "How'd you get to be so confident about your story?" She's like, "Jay, I'll tell you, a little more gray hair every year, and it'll get you there."
Yeah. It's going fast too.
I was like, "Sounds good. I'll be there when I get there, I guess."
Is it okay if I take a drink?
Yeah. Yeah. Do it up, man.
Record me going.
So trying to think about the perspective of the general world. I think your designs are not the norm, maybe in a grandiose sphere. I think maybe within the niche of like the products that Trekker and Brewhalla are. It is more of a norm maybe now and after following this kind of this wave, this current of this influence in those designs. But if somebody were to like think about your work as just like goofy illustrations, what maybe just feels incomplete about that description to you?
Well, like we were kind of mentioned earlier, like all the behind the scenes thinking and thought that goes into everything. I think just how calculated everything is, even the goofiness is calculated.
Yeah.
I make goofy, silly, tongue-in-cheek, cheeky illustrations because that's the Drecker Brewhalla brand. But I think if somebody like truly dug into like, you know, the last 10 years of work and saw like how expansive it is, you know, because I'm trying to think of like some industry segment or something that I haven't worked on, and there's not a lot. I mean, I think someone would see like that I am capable of doing kind of a little bit of everything. And that's actually been something I've always been proud of back in the day. Like you think of like would be a good designer like Draplin, let's say Aaron Draplin has such a recognizable style, and I'd always be like, man, I wish I had that. But over time I realized like I'm glad I don't. Like I can morph to what is needed and what will fit, you know, the project or the goal. So I'm glad that I have like such a weird, crazy breadth of work and can kind of. But that's also too because probably a little bit of ADHD. Of like, At least within, you know, Drecker and Brewhalla, there's so much variety under that umbrella of between events and the packaging and, you know, we're doing new things all the time on the side. Yeah. But yeah, that was a long answer for that question, but probably just, I wish people could see the behind the scenes more of how calculated things are.
Yeah. And when you had mentioned, you know, finding your style or a marquee person to look up to or to pull creative inspiration, you know, are you for or against the niching down into something or owning a specific style of video or photo or graphic design or website or animation? I mean, what's your take on that? Are you for it or kind of against that lane?
Man, I don't know if I'm qualified to really answer that. I don't know if I can be like black or white on that because I see exactly how it happens if you create something that just for some reason blows up and you have this influx of people who are like, I want that. Yeah. It'd be hard to turn that down.
Right. To ride that wave, so to speak.
So I don't know. Like, it's more personally, I couldn't do it because I would get bored and have to move on eventually. I think as long as you behind the scenes and put all your eggs in that basket, like you can pivot if you want later. Might be a little harder, but so I don't know how I would what I would say about that. Because I remember for quite a while that was the trend of niche down you know, and I even thought for a bit of like, I love logos. I'm good at them. Is that my thing? Do I
Yeah.
niche down to that?
Right.
And then it kind of started morphing in the branding world of like, well, to do your best work, you can't just give them the logo. You have to build the system and show how that all works together, and that's
Yeah.
where your value is. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to choose the gray answer on that one. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely been it's like how like the food pyramid just like shifted upside down. It's kind of like the same thing of like, I think when I was getting into this, maybe a little under over half a decade ago ish, it was like niche down. Every influencer was like, find your niche.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna be doing video,
Be the
just do
expert
like
at
car
that
video and be the best car video person you can be. And I think that there's pros and cons to that. You know, I think about like, let's look at LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Whether you think he's the best or not, he's one of the greatest. He's up in the top 15, 5, 10, whatever. And LeBron James was getting deals, you know, when I was growing up for like Hubba Bubba and Sprite. It's like, what the hell does that have to do with basketball or the NBA? But because LeBron James niched down into basketball, now he can do all these different things.
True.
But it's like, you know, is the niche maybe more like you had maybe commented on, like, is logos or like website design and layouts, you know, is that like more the niche, and then like the style underneath that follows of like get really good at video, and then maybe you can start designing websites after that effect, and people maybe hire you to do fractionally creative director brand campaign. You know, maybe that's what the repositioning of that stuff could have been, maybe retooled as, which maybe wasn't as profitable for them to sell their courses or whatever else they were doing at the time, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to a degree, I have finally set like some like parameters of like things I just don't want to do. So I've niched a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I could see how you could paint yourself into a corner if you were too rigid on that. But
Yeah.
and I think too, just seeing now how incredibly fast everything changes, I kind of don't hear that as much anymore probably because of that.
Too many options and the way that things change, and you know, you might be the best real estate videographer or whatever it is in the country, and then something changes and the whole style changes and then you're out.
Yeah. So now kind of talking out loud, I could see how that's kind of maybe pivoting the other way, actually, of being a little more open to pivoting,
doing a lot of different things at a given time.
Plus, I think it's good to do that anyway, of like, you don't know what you could be very good at if you don't explore a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge benefit of what our industry as a creative industry as a whole is, you know, we do a singular job, but it's never really the same. The process could be very similar in each time, but you're kind of just like starting a new job almost like every day or like every week or every month, so to speak, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it in those terms of like, even though I'm doing, a perfect example, another label, every time I sit down to start from scratch at that blank page, it feels
it's like, all right,
new.
Here we
like,
go.
Okay, you kind of have that little bit of, I don't freak out anymore, but that little bit of,
You're like, oh God, where do I go? Where do I start? What's my inspo?
Here we go.
Did we do the same thing last time?
Yeah. That's kind of the fun, addicting part too. Of scaring yourself intentionally.
I think that's something that draws us all to this industry to some
sure.
point that we all share in common in the world. You know, you had mentioned about, you know, the behind the scenes aspect of, you know, call it the context, call it the understanding. You know, maybe what are some things that people maybe wouldn't quite understand about like what your role entails, and maybe give a background brief of like what does that all entail at this given time for you?
I think right now, and you'd probably totally understand this, of we're kind of morphing more into this generic creative where you have a little bit of knowledge on everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to say like, oh, I'm a graphic designer, but you know, like my role now, like the amount of time I'm thinking of an event and how to market that event in a way that's going to succeed, and how that's going to affect the design of that promotional material or whatever. And then to pivot the next day and be in, the beverage industry and trying to keep track of what's happening there to a degree on the shelf and stuff. And then the next day it's merch, and then I think the complexity of it is what I think it's really easy for like a student of thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a designer. Like, the amount of random things that you will get sucked into and be thinking about beyond making something cool.
Right.
And I try to even lightly give them a heads up about that of like your weekday or whatever, the fun design time is like this, and the rest is the emails, the thinking, the concepting, the changes, the pivots, the I don't want to say the not fun stuff, but it's I had never in a million years in school was thinking about all that other stuff that I would end up learning.
It's just like the down deep one.
Yeah.
Sitting there.
I think I naively thought I was going to be in a room all day drawing.
Yeah.
Which that would get bored,
right.
too. But I think how spread thin creatives are now and expected to be is insane.
Right.
That would probably be the answer there.
Yeah. Trying to think about, that kind of the misunderstanding of what, call it TV, call it movies, call it the internet, of just people think of a title, right? And then obviously within we obviously have a small business here, right? And you wear a lot of different hats, depending on your role and your use case and how you navigate with clients.
Yeah, you probably have it worse than I do, trying to think business person and doing creative work at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the more people we have on the team, the more diversified our roles can get, to which that makes us less reliant on 5 or 6 hats. Maybe it's 2 or 3. We're technically, one we're the main champion of, and 2 and 3 are kind of auxiliary. Right. But when you think about it, and that concept of, I'm kind of trying to produce, our business with processes and systems to scale it, but then I'm trying to do creative things and pitch creative things that would cost money, like the studio, right? It's like me, if money wasn't a problem and I didn't have that part of my brain, I'm like, screw it. We're going to build this thing. We're going to build a building and then build a studio. We're going to build this all out. And then it's like, well, then the other side is like, well, that's like $5+ million. And like, does it actually make us any more money or not? And that's where we're kind of right. I think we've talked about that, that playful illustrator and then the strategic operator or strategic director. How do you yourself kind of entangle those two without abandoning either or, to make sure that obviously what you're producing is what your organization or your client needs at the time?
Yeah. It's kind of like 2 silos, like my, day job, Drecker, Brewhalla. We have such a big ownership group and team that I just do my best to try to remember I'm helping everyone else by doing the best at what I'm good at, the design part.
Right.
And if I can just keep my mind in there and focusing on that, I'm actually helping all those other things and helping them do those, other pillars. My freelance side, and when I'm trying to do like little side projects and stuff, it's kind of a shit show. Like I still feel like I have no idea how to properly do my taxes and keep track of paperwork, and I'm always kind of morphing how I build the brief with the client, or how I do I have them fill out this questionnaire? Do I do it only in person? I am just winging it.
Right.
Like I don't like being that operator type person. So I can hold it together, but so here's all that to say, I don't do it very well.
Yeah.
But kind of in the same as the first answer of like, if I do the part that I'm best at and focus on that, everything kind of will fall into place to a degree.
Yeah.
And that's also to keep from going crazy.
That is an important part. Absolutely. I mean, then going into, do you have thoughts about like continuing on as a designer, or does that wrestle with, director or something else? Maybe that's, I don't want to say it's just up the chain, right? But, what is that internal dialogue like for you?
It's probably crazy sounding if you if you heard my internal dialogue.
Yeah.
Like a couple of my friends we're all kind of the same age, half
Mm-hmm.
serious, half joking about like, can you picture yourself being a designer when you're 55 or
Yeah.
whatever? And that just sounds insane to me, but I can't, at least right now, can't picture removing myself any further than I am from the creating part.
Sure.
Like I think if I did that, I would start checking out a little
Sure.
bit too much. And not to say that, because we have a team where everyone's making stuff now,
Mm-hmm.
and I love seeing their interpretation of stuff, and we
Yeah.
bounce ideas off each other. So I love that. But if my only job was keeping everyone on track and guiding it, I think I would lose the passion for it a little bit too much. And I don't know if maybe that's just because I've worked with creative directors before that every now and then they get their hands dirty and
Yeah.
will take one of the
Totally
cool projects off
step
the
in
top
and
and
help
do it.
out. Yeah.
Maybe I'll move towards that over time, but right now, I definitely don't think I'm ready to step away in any form.
Yeah. Like entirely,
But,
so to speak,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But ask me again in 5 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe AI will make me change that answer.
You never know. Well, keeping on that same topic of kind of this or that, you know, being in Fargo, right? I think is a unique place in the country. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm a transplant, and you're a transplant right from up north, basically, the border of Canada, and I'm, southern Minnesota. I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of Fargo in itself, and do you see yourself as someone that would kind of continue on and continue to raise your family here, and what are maybe some of those internal dialogues with
I've always thought Fargo was such a cool place that if someone came here and actually took the time to get to know the community, and they would be surprised at how cool it is.
yeah.
So I'm a big proponent of Fargo in general in our community.
Yeah.
I can't picture, at least the more time goes, the more I feel like I'm here for the long haul. I mean, not to say that I love the idea of having a nice warm winter home or something, but
Absolutely.
and to, my son is only 5 years old, so or sorry, 6.
Yeah.
If he moved to Arizona and had a family there, depending on what's going on in my life, I could see maybe
Yeah.
changing things up. But
Right.
yeah, I love Fargo and want to see it just keep getting better. And I think that's also a big draw with being part of Drecker Brewhalla and some of the other side things we're doing is we're, actively trying to change it to the way we want. Not just to grow things, or it's if there's an event that we wish someone did,
Yeah.
we'll probably just try to do it.
Do that.
Because then it's a little bit of that too, of if someone else does it, they might not do it right. So we'll just
So you might as well do it yourselves.
Yeah. So yeah, at least at this moment, I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about, again, maybe we go back to the same influences, or looking back at what influenced you, when you were looking at your life of, 18, might have hopped in a van with a buddy back in the day and rode the wind. What are some of those thoughts and beliefs and maybe conversations, and maybe who are they with around, what kind of makes staying in Fargo feel intentional versus kind of just how it's worked out?
Definitely like my business partners and stuff. We all have the same mindset of if there's something we want here, try to create it. same with a lot of my friends and stuff. But I've traveled enough and been to other, countries and communities and cities, and they all have cool things too. And if instead of the mindset of like, oh, I should go there and be a part of that, or I would rather take that cool thing and let's try to influence Fargo and bring it here, and instead of leaving it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving into, the aspects of as you've moved through, and I remember we had a conversation at Thunder Coffee in West Fargo. Gosh, man,
That was a long
this
time
had to be
ago.
pre-COVID, I feel like.
That sounds about right.
Maybe even just, I think it was. Maybe it was 2019 or 2020. I can't recall exactly, but
I think once you have a kid, I don't know what it is, but my memory and associating it with like when things happened is so jacked. Like
I mean, you've obviously had to, navigate life in different ways since being in an agency standpoint in 22 and then where you're at now. Do you think that you made like just better choices or worked harder, or what do you think has gotten you here in your professional life, that you've had all this knowledge or have all this knowledge and know how to make some play calls and design really cool things that make real impact in the world?
It does kind of go back to the just working hard thing. That was another thing like my parents really instilled of you can make up what you lack sometimes in skill or knowledge by just the grind and working hard. So I think that's definitely been a part of it. I think that's the little bit of advantage I had coming out of school and some of my classmates, because we were all not good coming out of school.
Yeah, right.
But I was just loving what I was doing, so I put in more time and effort, and that I think got me that first job, because I'm sure we all 30, 40 of us applied for the same exact job. So why me over them? And I'd like to think my teachers at the time put in a good word for me of like, he'll show up and try.
Yeah.
Like damn hard. So that, and I think of just having this endless desire to explore, is really kept me going, because I've not gotten bored in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And because I think if I did one day come to work and was like, this is not making me excited anymore, I'd probably pivot to something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a combination of all those things and a little luck, probably probably a lot of luck.
Yeah.
If I was honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say, working harder than most, I mean, help me visualize kind of what that maybe means in your daily routines or rhythm, or things that you've maybe implemented in your life, since college and working harder, and what your parents have taught you.
Like college, it was obviously just time, like I would do the third layout option, or the, like redo the thing that all the other students were like, it's good enough, I'll get a B. Like I didn't settle with a lot of stuff. Kind of the same where it got a little unhealthy, like getting into your career of like, I probably shouldn't have been working that late over and over and on weekends.
Yeah.
But it when there's that first, downturn and 20 people get let go, I'm sure I was looked at of like, he should stick around because he is a hard worker. Right. Like those types of things.
Yeah.
Like I think it definitely helped in that way. And I think even leading up to where I'm at right now I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at with Drucker and Brewhalla if I didn't work super hard, because I was there late putting up stuff on the walls and, like, so in that practical sense, it's just the showing up thing. Yeah, did I actually answer that? I kind of veered off there a little bit.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just not settling when you could. just that bothered me, and I had to keep going.
Yeah. And I mean, myself being an entrepreneur, right, and yourself, right, and having different roles and duties as assigned in different groups that you've worked with and for, and because, at what point, like, does working harder feel like just unsustainable, right? And maybe what are you noticing, and kind of how that affects like your body, and maybe like just the way you're processing things, inside and out of work.
Yeah, like I said, there's a weird fine line there of where it turns unhealthy and it is not actually benefiting you or your career or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is a hard thing because it's going to be different for every person. That's to put it in the words. It's like, or like even thinking back to the agency days where it was enjoyable and benefiting me, and then it got to the point where it wasn't benefiting me at all. And that's a hard one to put into words, though. I think it's, you can see when it turns from advantageous to being almost taken advantage of, and that line there is really gray and muddy.
Sure.
And of course, the obvious things of like when you're feeling stuff physically of like run down and depressed or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it starts to affect you physically when you've gone too far the one way. But
right.
And two, I think there's a part of life where you should or can work way harder than like I can't do what I could do in my 20s.
Absolutely.
Because it's just straight up life and physical.
Yeah.
So there's that element too and maybe that was a huge part of it, as I just got to the age where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Or that's a real non-answer, but
yeah,
it's so individual too, because I know people that are my age and I'm like, how are you doing this still?
Right.
At this level? And maybe it's just me. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What or where, did you, you'd mentioned of like, I just can't do this anymore. There's, priorities in life, different relationships. Maybe at what point in time did that shift more clearly for you, that just hustling and grinding maybe was just not paying dividends, and you want to focus your time and priorities somewhere else?
It was that last 2 years at the ad agency. I don't want to say it was just that classic like overworked, underappreciated, underpaid scenario.
Right.
But I saw, so first I should say, if you're putting in that crazy amount of hard work and you're learning and growing, great, that's for you.
Totally.
But when you're doing that super hard work and it's only benefiting like an employer or another group or person, that is when there's like red flags and something is off.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of reached that point, and then at the same time too, I had really started to pursue the freelance stuff to get more creative work and whatnot. And that, I realized how much that was, not just more enjoyable, but gave me that like energy again. And it kind of clicked of like, okay, this environment is sucking the energy out of me, where this one is
giving something. Yeah.
And that was kind of an aha moment of like, something has to change.
Might be something around this.
Yeah. If that's...
Yeah.
Without getting in crazy.
So, I mean, you've kind of balanced this line of like still working with an organization, but still having your own projects. I mean, and I'm sure it's changed over the years, but has there been a sweet spot for you, and has that changed over the years of what you maybe see as, do you go full-time freelance? Do you just work with an organization? Does that give what you maybe want out of your design, life conundrum?
There is a sweet spot. You're kind of always diving in and out of it.
Sure.
And that's just going to be natural and part of any career. The most memorable one, just because it's a fun story, or it was during COVID.
Okay.
Like I was working at NDSU, still just graphic design.
Yeah.
And was working from home and could get all my work done for the week, like super early.
Super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was doing all my freelance stuff at the same time. And it was like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And like I could be done by like 5 every day. And I was
doing a great job at the organization. You're doing a great job for clients. Like everyone was happy.
Yeah. Super excited about everything going on. And then a good example of when like something is off, like the hammer came down and it was like everyone's back to the office now.
Oh, frick.
And I remember walking into my old office at NDSU and I could just feel
the depletion of
like the air was different. It was just like internally I remember thinking to myself like I shouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah.
And I right then decided like okay, so I'm gonna do something else. I didn't know what yet, but started actively thinking, do I need to I kind of thought like, okay, I got to go fully on my own because I didn't think there was any other opportunity. Well, I didn't think there was any opportunities left in Fargo that were going to be suiting what I wanted to do. And then, just how things work shortly thereafter, as I saw like in the paper, Drucker's building this $20 million hotel thing.
And it was that could be interesting.
That sounds awesome. I should pursue that or talk to them. And
because I think when we had met at Thunder, I think you were debating that at that time.
Oh, that would make sense at the time.
Because it was you were talking about something you couldn't share it, but you were talking about there might be something cool over here, and you were trying to debate whether you were like gonna do it, and you were like, I mean, you weren't no by means asking me my opinion, but it was kind of just like maybe a little bit of a jam session of like some of the pros and cons of like, do I do this?
That does now ring a bell because you were doing your own thing, and
I was getting started at like maybe a couple years in.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like if I were you, like I would do this cool thing, and in 2 years you'll have this cool thing, and it might be even cooler, and if not, you'll have the cool thing.
Oh man.
And I think I said something like that, maybe not the same verbatim thing.
Now it's coming back. I totally remember this more of like I was still on the fence of like what do I do? Yeah.
I was like, the clients will always be there, but this thing,
but
now, we're only going to build it once.
But now I've really gotten to the point where there's nothing else, nowhere else to go.
For sure. You've climbed and built your own ladder and then put some extenders on top of it at the same time.
But I have said that twice in my career of like, well, nowhere to go now.
And it
I really
seems
do
to always
think
work
that
out
now,
for itself, right?
Yeah. But I really do think that now, like I found such a great, I guess I should say that I'm in the sweet spot again right now.
Right.
Like, I love what I do during the day. I can find alternative projects if I need to try something a little different every now and then. There's crazy variety all around me, and yeah. I don't remember even what you asked in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it was going back to like, the hustle and culture and finding this groove and, would you change things in life? It's, all that whole culmination of basically, we're getting to the point of like opportunities usually make themselves available when you've put in the time and effort and failed numerous times to get to that earned level. Yeah. Sometimes there's things that pop in your lap and you're like, dang, that's cool, but does it stick around or not? Right. Is the things that we care about and have earned. And I have no doubt that something else will either transpire or continue on. And we'll open up. I mean, you're
it always does.
Just getting started, so. Looking at, maybe diving a little bit more into like, I guess like health and wellness, like in this creative world, because I think that's one wildly overlooked thing that the hustle culture isn't just for like CEO entrepreneurs. It's
Yeah.
like the creative space, I would say, dictates a lot of that because, again, we either find inspiration late at night, or a lot of my friends that are, in the video space work overnights, and that's just how their brain works, and they get creative and they just dial in for 2 days and don't sleep. Maybe when you look at kind of like your maybe like your boundaries, and how you structure your day, maybe tell me more about that and how you've gotten to this point of how they look currently versus what they used to be.
One, I should say, I don't necessarily like. I know I use the word hustle or that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like a positive word as much as it used to be anymore. Like
No,
I think
totally.
it was actually a pretty toxic thing.
Yeah.
But the truthful side of it is of like what you were saying of like I loved working when I got home from the day job and
Yeah.
could work on my own stuff till
Excited.
the wee hours, and then but there was a time and place for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of ran its course, and I saw the limits of what that does to your body.
Yeah.
I definitely reached out. I was working all day, drinking tons of coffee, probably running on pure cortisol and adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then I would intentionally have to crash that at night so I could sleep, and eventually that catches up, and I
Yeah.
learned, probably age too had a lot to do with it, but
Right.
learned some good lessons there, got out of shape, and I wouldn't say like I looked terrible, but
Sure.
just felt
Worse.
not myself, or
Yeah.
as good as I could be. And then
Right.
a really cool thing of being part of the Drecker team is I think they all kind of had that same epiphany at the
Sure.
same time, because we're all pretty close to the same age.
Yeah.
And they had started a workout group
Oh, sweet.
that's like built into the day, so there's
Yeah.
no excuse of why you can't go.
Like it's literally between the hours that we're working.
Yep.
So you're going to either
8
do
to
it or don't.
8 to 9.
Yeah.
So I get to be a part of that,
That's fun.
and that I do not take that for granted. It has been, I think, going on 2 years now,
Nice.
and that has been the best thing I've done. Like, I didn't realize how much mentally that was going to benefit me, not just
Yeah.
physically.
Right.
So that in the last 2 years, I've really shifted back to prioritizing not just physical health, but mental health. And I think as far as like those guardrails and stuff, it's kind of easy for me now because, like I mentioned, like once you have a kid too, like I see how insanely fast it's going, and I don't want to risk missing
Yeah.
those moments. It makes it a little stressful at times where I'm trying to like sneak in some work in between bath time, and
Sure. 30 minutes here
it's
or something
chaos.
like that. Yeah.
But I know now of like I just can't run myself ragged like I used to. I mean, you have moments where there's some crazy weeks here and there, but
Yeah.
but
Got a
I
lot
think
to
you just have to learn the hard lesson to before you can shift back to the healthy mode of
Yeah.
not killing yourself for a
Yeah.
career.
And had you like, I guess, what was like your knowledge of like health and working out and like food up until like, maybe the couple of years ago when this workout group had come into your life?
Well, I know this seems like such a pivot, but many years ago, I don't know if you remember that documentary Food Inc. It's like one of the first ones that I recall that really dived into like where your food comes from on a pretty deep level.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that with my wife, and that was the start of like we really started changing how we ate.
Yeah.
Like completely. It was gradual, but we realized it, like how important it was. So I actually do have like a pretty good knowledge on like healthy living as far as like nutrition and food, and like I used to go drive out to a farm in Wolverton to get raw milk and eggs,
sweet.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think because I had always rode BMX bike,
You had
so
some,
much.
Yeah,
I was kind
it's
of
not
always
easy. Yeah.
fit
Right.
until like, especially before COVID, like I just didn't have time to ride.
Yeah.
And that's when I really noticed
Oh,
Like, oh
all
my
that
gosh, I'm like,
is gone now.
it's gone. Like I'm weak. Like I wasn't like a fat person or whatever.
Yeah,
but
you
I
just
was like, I have no
not.
muscle.
Yeah.
I'm so weak.
Right.
But I had like the knowledge of it, and it kind of took a little wake up
The
of like,
backseat priority
I
call.
have
Wake
fallen
up.
more than I realized, and
Yeah.
like even though we were still eating healthy and stuff, I was like, I need to, the physical part needs to line
Come
up with
back.
yeah. So I actually still read a ton about all the little things of like, if you are low in this, it could lead
Do
to
this.
blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and if you take this with, yeah, I could talk about food and nutrition for
Absolutely.
hours if I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
the
I don't know
chance.
if I want to get down that rabbit hole of food and,
Yeah.
and other things, but so it seems like you have your priorities pretty well calibrated. When you say when you say no to something new now, what are some of the things that come to your mind of what you're weighing that against? Is it time with wife and kid? Is it just taking care of yourself? What are some of the immediate things that pop up into your head when something new comes up and you're like, probably gonna be a no?
Well, I still kind of go by the 3 rules of like, it's got to be a certain amount of creativity,
Okay.
budget, and time.
Okay.
And if like 2 of those, it has to have 2 of those. And if it's missing the third one, I have to really, really dig down on like, okay, is it going to benefit me in some creative way, or is it going to be this really visual project that has a lot of eyes on it? Is it going to be enjoyable? All that stuff. But now it's shifting more and more where it is that time thing of like, there's been a couple really cool projects that have come my way that I know it would have been fun, and I know fun to work with them,
Yeah.
but it was too big,
Sure.
and I know it would have sucked me in for way too long, and it would have eventually gotten difficult and probably stressful because of just managing all the everything, all the buckets. But I still, in the back of my head, it's those 3 things.
Yeah.
Because you just catch yourself saying yes to things, and then you're working on it, and you're like, why did I say yes to this?
Yeah.
Like I still have to learn that lesson like once every couple years.
Sure.
You just forget.
Yeah.
I know this. Why did I say yes to this?
Yeah. Let's stick with that thing before we transition of saying no to projects that were too big. I think a lot of people might hear that as a creative and be like, what are you doing?
Why would you do
that?
that?
Why would you ever say no to something that's too big? You figure it out, or just make it work, or it might be their dream project that you're turning down, and the perspective obviously is only as relevant as they understand. Maybe just talk to me about that of a project that's too big, and maybe what that means for you at this time.
It kind of goes back to like when you were asking about managing all the behind the scenes stuff. So the one that comes to mind is I took this on, and I knew it was pulling in all these other things that I can do. And I thought in my head, like, I'm going to save so much money by not having to hire this out, because I can write, I can
you can
strategize,
do this, do that,
I
do
can
this.
do all that.
Yep.
And of course, got in the thick of it and was like,
You're like, oh shoot.
I do not even enjoy doing this. Why am I
Why
doing
did I
this?
say yes
Like,
to
the amount of money I was making was completely meaningless at that point.
Yeah.
And I still go back to that one project of like, okay, stick to what you like to do, regardless of money or notoriety or whatever. And yeah, I think it's just those tempting things that get dangled of like,
Totally.
like, man, that budget is huge, or
Right. Or the way they sell it to you, maybe.
that too. And I think, especially for creatives or anybody with something that is a visual skill or something, when someone comes to you and be like, says such great things about, they can kind of talk you into doing
Kind of
things.
gassing you up to a little bit too
because
much. Yeah.
like, oh, they really want to work with me and I can't let them down.
Yeah.
And that's a problem I really have of like, I feel like when I'm saying no, that I'm letting someone down, or like that they're taking it personally, or like, I don't want to work with you, or that. And I know I struggle with that.
Right.
But I've learned that lesson too many times of, you're halfway in a project and you're like,
God,
why did I do this?
Yeah.
And but that's still another one. Like every few years, I accidentally get a little
Say, oh,
too far
shoot.
into it, and then
Yeah, maybe didn't read into it enough or whatever.
yeah, I'm a lot better now though than I
Yeah.
was like especially when you're younger and you're trying to get a
Just
name out there.
take
and,
it, yeah.
yeah,
We've all done the same things.
Yeah,
I mean, I can relate. I've done projects and I've shot weddings and other stuff that I look back on. I'm like, Jake, what the?
yeah.
You must have been in a different spot in a lot of ways
It,
of
it
life.
is part of the career though, of like,
Yeah,
if
you
you
gotta
don't
learn.
if you don't get in there and realize this is what I like, this is what I don't, you're not gonna know
No idea.
until you try.
Yeah. So, wrapping up this theme of, health and stability and clarity, maybe in the last 2 years since this workout group has been a thing with you and the team over there, how does it just feel to maybe come into a room and lead with just a steadier baseline for you in physical and mental health when you look at that as a streamlined of things you've created?
I don't know if this is the answer you might were thinking, but it's more so just there's just a general clarity that wasn't there before. Everything just kind of slows down a bit. That's the big thing that I've noticed. Like, and once you start getting out of that, you start getting that kind of like that speed brain again of like you're spiraling thoughts. You start worrying about things, and I've noticed when I am in that sweet spot of, sleeping well, working out super regularly, not eating trash, you're just all around so much more productive and present. You get to the point where you're like, I don't want to risk not feeling this good, that it makes it easier to turn down, like, I don't know if it's that extra beer or the sweets or skipping workout, things like that. Just once you get to the good spot, you're like, I don't want to mess this up.
Right.
If that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and when you know, you know where you're at that time, given where you want to be at.
Yeah, it's almost like when you are running at 50% for so long, you don't even remember what running at 75% is like anymore.
Right.
So when you get back to it, you're like, oh my gosh,
this feels amazing.
I feel so alive.
Yeah, I feel good
this is
for some
weird.
reason. Moving into maybe giving us a little look into the design rooms that you're in solo, and maybe that you lead in conversations and discussions. When you're in those rooms and you've got the team, it's merch, it's event, it's product, whatever it is, and you're brainstorming and it's going to be creative energy is flowing, right, as you might say. What's kind of be going on in your mind during those meetings and those ideations together as a squad?
Oh man. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's probably more chaotic than you would think. It's hard for me not to immediately jump to visualizing where I'm going to go with it, which I'm actively trying not to do and stay more in the moment of, not trying to look here when we're still here planning and stuff. But yeah, I'm always trying to turn an idea or a concept or whatever immediately into a visual. And I think that's just because that's how my mind works, is visually. So it's more of an internal fight with myself to not be doing that. Is the real answer.
Yeah.
My mind wanders off all the time to that. And I don't know, do you do that too, of like thinking of a set already, or like, we could set up like this, and it's like, if the lighting was like this.
Did we have
we're not even
figured
there
out yet enough to go that far, right?
So I'm a lot better now, but that's what I'm focusing on now, is staying in that present thought of like whatever it is, not getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But I know I have that problem.
Right. And when you say, not trying to get ahead of yourself, and you're in these rooms with other creative people, and an ownership group is obviously creative themselves, as what they've created is a baseline of what maybe people define as creative. What happens when you have too many things on the plate, and we know that we're maybe creating a little bit too many opportunities here? What is that like as you help navigate those discussions?
I think honestly, at least myself, like we're all pretty honest about like what like I mentioned earlier, we're all kind of around that same age and have each had our own version of maybe burnout or whatever.
Right.
I think we're all pretty honest about what
Realistic.
is realistic.
Yeah.
And you still have to push it a little bit so you're, you know, keeping yourself from getting not lazy, but
Stagnant.
yeah. But yeah, I think if I truly know something is not attainable, or I'm going to end up putting out a mediocre product, I will say it, you know, because it's not benefiting anybody by getting these 10 things done if they're all kind of okay, you know.
Yeah.
But that took a long time to learn that.
Find that balance of what is and what isn't.
Yeah, because I that is one of those things that I struggle with too, of like putting anything out in the world that I personally am not happy with or I think is mediocre, because I feel like when my name is on it, I just it kills me to see even old work too, where when I felt like I didn't try as hard as I could have, or I phoned it in a little bit, like it just kills me to see it. So I would say something for sure of like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the hot topics and debates in our field of, you know, I mean the cameras that we're not filming on, but our paperweights or our props. I mean, you know, they're cameras you shoot movies on, right? And now there's times where slide this over and we're grabbing this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do you agree that you can be happy with work that maybe isn't the most creative in the world as long as it solves a problem really well? Or what do you maybe define as like work that you'd be happy with, not just meaning you're designing an entire facility, you know, from the ground up, right?
Yeah, I guess that's a good clarification. Like I am never striving for perfection, because I think actually all design is not perfect, and a lot of those imperfections are what makes something have character and interesting. Yeah. So I don't mean it like that. And I think especially the way media and all that is shifting, like we're in a spot of, if it's authentic, people don't care if it's glossy or shiny. And it's more so on me of just, that could have been a better concept, or that could have been like, I see where I skipped a corner a little bit when I shouldn't have. Stuff like that is more.
Right.
But yeah, I never have strived for perfection, because then you just spin and waste time anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I asked, you know, that I've had to overcome as well too. Being young in the industry, I was no different. You know, it was everything needs to be shot on the best cameras, the best lenses, the most lighting, the biggest crew, the biggest budget. And it's like, Jay, we're trying to create a trucking recruitment driver ad. And I'm like, but it could look super sick, you know? And it's like, but does it need to be, you know? I think a lot of those debates there was back and forth.
I think just like I said, the change, like there was a time though when that was like your line of like setting the bar for what you could do.
Right.
You know, it's just changed now.
You know, I would debate too. I mean, just the overly, you know, cinematic stuff was a trend and a fad that brands and companies did pay and endorse and did curate and make filmmakers and videographers hyper focus on it. But again, I think authentic storytelling, messages that resonate, create an emotional response that then dictates or helps channel in action, right, is the most useful. Whether it's the best art or not, I think it's, you know, whatever that solves the problem the best or not. So
yeah, I even find myself gradually moving more and more, like, I like to call, the best description is like lo-fi, like the low fidelity art of just grainier, rougher, more handmade.
Yeah. More
is-
real.
Is
Feels,
yeah,
it
that's
feels
what,
like a human being made this.
yeah, basically.
Uh-huh.
Is, and maybe that's just because of the change that we see happening, but that
Totally.
anything that's like glossy and perfect and shiny now, I'm immediately like, whoa.
Like,
Like, yeah.
yeah.
But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I think we all, I mean, that aligns with our filmmaking and storytelling strategy. You know, we're not saying don't create a brand identity piece to launch, you know, a go-to-market campaign strategy for a product or service, but what else are you creating that relates back to me and I can tell it's authentic and real, and it can still look great, but just making it overly flashy and overly zealous.
And I'm thinking more like graphic.
Yeah,
you know,
same
I know
concept. I think. I think the trends are similar.
Maybe that'll be the cool differentiator going forward. Of like, everybody has these prompt tools where they can make, perfectly looking, whatever. But it's still going to come back to the creators that can make something with
to do
real
things.
Character and I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I'm interested to know. I'm sure you've maybe archived an idea or two. Do they exist? And maybe can you pull one out of there that might get made into something, or one that you maybe wish made it through
like
the queue and finalized itself?
Like anything?
Yeah. Any archive. It doesn't have to be Drucker and Brewhalla centralized or anything.
I think it was during COVID when we all had so much time. I was dead set on making a Scandinavian toy line.
Okay.
Because I had my first child.
Yeah. You're like, might as well.
Everything was gross plastic and just so manufactured. I wanted to
Quite
make
literally,
like cool, simple, kind of like wood-based toys.
Yeah.
And I had kind of a brand built out for everything, and was looking into Glowforge and all these different at-home machines. And then kind of a good example of like getting outside of what your passion is or your skill. It came down to like execution of like, okay, am I going to really order this $5,000 laser and do all this other stuff? And I just kind of realized like, I enjoyed building a fictitious
piece
brand.
Getting it to that point, but the actual process, you were like,
So what I should like, and this is so that's all archived, and I look at it every now and then.
Right.
I think I even put the logo on my site because I at least like that.
Yeah, it was too groovy. Yeah.
But the idea I had then from that was, what if I fully fledged out this whole idea and then sold the package idea? Like, here's a idea, a company, all wrapped up. Do you want to start this company?
Yeah.
Like, but then it's all the same problem of like, now I have to sell this.
Yeah. You're like, do I want to sell this to somebody else?
But I had fun having beers with friends over that. Of like,
I bet.
What if that was a company? Like, you created the whole concept, branded it, everything, and it was for sale, and you could buy it and start that company.
I'm sure that exists. I just don't know what it's called. I don't know. You know, it's like ghostwriters for music.
Yeah.
It's probably a similar concept for serial entrepreneurs or something. Shark Tank it or something. I don't know.
But man, those little toy doodles I did were really cool. But no, that's like the easy one I can think of. I have so many though that I can't even. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving into, you know, maybe one of the last three sections here of, as you've mentioned to me when I met with you last at Brewhalla upstairs, and you talked about, you know, equity, right, and partnership, and not just, you know, employment. You know, what feels different, you know, from like operating independently as you know, your design studio comparatively now with equity in this company? Maybe to help us differentiate those two things, as we've learned a lot about, you know, your other projects outside of, you know, Drucker and Brewhalla world, but talk us through maybe that partnership.
Now, like I don't separate them as much in my head anymore. Like, it all kind of is one thing to me now a little bit. And I had been upfront with the other owners too of like, I have that entrepreneurial thing in me.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I'm not asking for anything, but I'm just saying like, almost like a heads up. If like 5 years from now, I might like, I'm going to go start this thing or I'm
Yeah.
going back to going on my own or whatever.
Yeah, just a heads up.
But having that, you know, however small, like that stake makes it so much easier to stomach the stress or the hard work and stuff, because it's not, I'd like to think that I coined this phrase back in the day, but
Yeah.
if it's not your business or you don't have equity or whatever, you're just building someone else's castle. And I've always struggled with that.
Sure.
Of like, and I know I'm contradicting myself a bit. Like if you're working hard and you're learning and growing, that's winning.
Valuable.
That's value.
Yeah.
But there comes a point though where you're building someone else's, you know, wealth and castle. And if you have the skill to do that for them and whatever it is, you could also be doing that for yourself too, in one form or the other.
Right.
And I've always been cognizant of that. But that's also too why I still freelance and do my side thing of like, but more and more as time goes on, it's all kind of one to me now. It makes it a lot easier to not,
Sure.
you know, like if I'm super busy at, you know, the day job or Drecker because of something going on, like I'm not, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like, it's fine to let my side stuff sit for a few months.
Yeah, you're not torn as much.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not torn between the two.
You're more fluid in the way you go back and
Yeah.
forth. It's not like black and white. It's like this is bad and this is good.
It makes
this
it a
is
lot
good, this is
easier,
bad.
at least in my head.
Yeah,
That
compartmentalize
it's
it a
all
little
kind of
bit
morphing
easier.
into one.
Right.
It's just, it's all being creative, and that's kind of how I look at it. It's less and less more like job feeling. It's
Sure.
more like,
This is my thing.
this is just what we do or I do.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe that's getting a little too fluffy, but
I mean, I think it's what we had talked about at Thunder Coffee was kind of your predication around, is this gonna feel like it is now for you?
Yeah.
And I'm glad it has gotten to this point for you, and it's obviously probably would have maybe not been as much without like the partnership and seat at the leadership table. I'm sure some of those things, right, were the main contributors.
Yeah, I think I would have been a little torn, honestly, because I know what I'm doing is so fun. Like I love the projects and what we're doing, and I work super hard. But I think I would have felt a little more, like you said, torn when I get these other fun projects on the side and stuff that
Kind of looking out
could
the
be
window
more,
like, they're driving by a little bit on you.
yeah, like I'd still be like, should I have gone out on my own or started my own thing? And I don't think about that anymore, really.
Yeah. It's a good spot to be at.
Yeah.
One we're all trying to get to at some point in time of complacency, or what my mom defines happiness as, is just being content. It's not really this elation or this exuberance. It's just you're content with your life, and like that's
the hard part too is just to recognize that
that this
like,
is good and it is great. And
living for the future is like one of the, I think such a huge downfall for so many people of like, because you're never content.
100%.
Like, I'll be content when
that's and then it's always something else. And be where your feet are. Right.
The earlier you can learn that, the better.
I mean, this office, this team, this was like my ultimate dream like 5 years ago. This, what I have right now, and what I've built and what I've built with the team members we have, this was like my ultimate goal. Like if it was like just someday I could have like a company van, like a few cameras, like a small handful of team members that all love to do like the same thing that our company's rooted in, its mission, vision, and core values. God, that would just be it. And now I'm here. There's zero connection back to Jay half a decade ago that felt and believed that same mission was unobtainable. And now I'm here, and there's zero, like, I mean, if I'm being honest, there's almost zero gratitude of like where I'm at. It's just like, well, what's next, or what can we do?
It's
now?
always what's next. Like, and that's just part of being human. But but once you know, I think actually one of the first times I learned that lesson was buying my first new car.
Okay.
Like, you research it and you think about it and you test drive it and you're like, man, this is so much nicer than my old car. And 1 week later, you're like,
you want
it's just
car.
a car. I don't care anymore. And now I'm way in debt.
I should have just
I should have just drove my old shitty car.
It's like that damn Toyota
Yeah,
commercial got
but
me again.
But that's so true though. I can remember that happening, and
Yeah.
that was the first big click of like, it's the anticipation of
That's the exciting part
yeah.
of life of what is, and maybe that's, you know, if you go back to yourself at 18, your guidance counselor, maybe that was an overly exhilarating concept of just, well, I don't know, like I'll figure it out, and I know I will. And
that could be, maybe that was her secret way of encouraging me to, like, by saying you're not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
Like I actually run really well on revenge motivation.
Yeah. Showing somebody
I'll
that
show
you're wrong.
I can make a career drawing weird shit. I did.
Yeah. I mean, at the same
Maybe
time,
she was
too,
smarter than I thought.
Yeah. You were never going to do this exact same thing. Yeah. It's like it's like very AI prompted. It's like, create AI, ChatGPT, create a prompt for me that makes me into the next whatever, you know? Well, as you've gone on in life, and there's no doubt, and maybe not everybody knows that you're, you know, one of the maestro behind this whole brand universe of Brewhalla and Drucker's shape. I mean, how much responsibility do you personally feel for like the success of the company and the brand's relevance as being one of the people in that driver's seat?
Probably not as much as you might think. I know them all so well now, like they would have been successful regardless. It just would have looked different.
Right.
You know, like someone else would have came in and done a good job too, and that would have looked cool. Maybe not as cool, I'd like to think that, but but at the same time, I obviously do think I contribute to it in my own way. I don't have a very big head when it comes to that stuff. Like, I can think of 100 other people that would have done an awesome job too. It just would have been different.
Yeah. So you don't hold a certain weight of like every design matters or is a make or break or any big new event, campaign launch or whatever it is.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I take each one fresh and serious of like, this has to look as good as it can.
Totally.
And kind of like going back to like, it's not going to be perfect. I will make it as cool as I can with this amount of time and try to check all the boxes and thinking about the audience and blah, blah, blah. But the minute I'm out of time, I'm done.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to stress out about
what could have been or what should have been, or
like, am I financially hurting the company because I kind of flopped on this one project or label or you know, campaign. Yeah, maybe in a good way. That's because things move so fast. There's no time for that.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, do you guys get like customers like commenting on these things to you? I mean, what's that feedback like? I mean, I'm interested to know that.
I mean, if you look at it from that aspect, yeah, we have a huge following of people that love us because of the art.
Right.
And it's not just me, you know, Matt, you know, Punch really got the ball rolling with Drecker, like totally set a tone for the cheekiness and the
look,
the
feel,
darkness
taste,
and
smell,
the silliness all rolled into one. And I just kind of got to help and riff off of that and create kind of a side thing with Brewhalla. And now, you know, Matt and I even talk of how like, I feel like we are kind of influencing each other now, and it's still morphing. Yeah. So, yeah, we definitely have people that would be like, "Oh, I bought this because I love the art so much," or you know, and our merch for a brewery does so well compared to most breweries our size, and that's because we put in a ton of effort into. Right. You know, it's not just a logo on, because that's usually what it is. It's like, put your logo here, put your logo there.
Totally.
So now you got a hoodie.
Good to go.
But we design that hoodie, we design that shirt, and we design that towel, that you know. So yeah, there's definitely that. But then we also get the same people that are detractors of like, I can't stay in that hotel room with that crazy thing leering over
it's like, oh
my headboard. But that's just the branding part of like, if you don't have people that
Yeah.
hate your brand, you're never going to have anyone that loves it.
Totally.
You know? Otherwise you water it down to mud, but,
It's
and we
gonna-
all get that. So
Yeah.
we just laugh at that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, it's like, well, did you
Yeah.
look at what you were saying?
Yeah.
before
My
you
favorite
came
is like, we haven't done it in a while, but sometimes we'll get the most insane comments on like social media or something.
Okay.
And they've done it in the past where
Though.
we'll turn it into merch.
Oh,
or
that's
like
funny.
like a saying,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like we'll turn that into yeah. So yeah, we're cognizant of like
Yeah.
how important the visual part is, but
Totally.
it's just a cog in the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Going into, like skill over passion. When someone asks you whether they should pursue their passion, what makes you pause maybe around that?
I know this is kind of one of those things where it doesn't sound like it makes sense at the surface level, but I think the pursuing a passion thing can be such a trap because usually passion stuff is borderline in the world of a hobby.
Totally.
And if you're talking to have a career, to be financially stable, or it's almost like two different things, and people like to,
Right.
and usually that comment comes from somebody that's already successful. That'll be like, pursue your passion, and
Sure.
and that, when you think
Yeah.
about it, that's usually the case. But I think there's something to be said, and I've, this is more in hindsight because I've done it. If you really try to master something and put yourself into something, the passion to it comes later. It grows with the mastery and the skill, And I think you're setting yourself up better to be successful by pursuing talent and skill than you are just, I like baking cupcakes, like,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Do that for a living now. And
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
can insert a million different things there.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, looking back, that's kind of what I was pushed towards of like, and I think that was very beneficial.
Yeah. So, when you focus on building skill, what are you maybe doing, over others that are maybe just chasing excitement or like that passionary concept, right? Skill over passion.
Oh. Maybe I'm not as quick to drop something, like this kind of ties in a little bit to the BMX world of like,
Yeah.
I'm doing something that the first time I try it seems completely impossible.
Yeah.
And then it's not till months, maybe even years later when you attain it. And maybe that goes back to the hard work thing, So maybe it's I don't give up as early.
Yeah.
I could see how that could be a negative too of like not moving on when I should, but so far it's
paid
been,
off.
yeah, that sounds, I'll stick to that answer.
Okay. Again, going through, like your hard work, your drive, looking at your own path, right? What are some other ways that you've shared a few, but what are some other ways that hard work, has outworked talent or passion or innate desire or emotions, right? This hard work that's created opportunities for you that maybe just excitement wouldn't have gotten you that opportunity or new job or whatever it is.
Ooh. Not to rehash, but like the Brewhalla thing for sure. If I wasn't a hard worker, there's no way they would have offered what they did.
Yeah. I mean, maybe let's dive into that. As I think, like, what about hindsight now? Over almost a handful of years now later. Like, why do you think you got that job? Like, and I'm sure they've told you, right, in a post.
In the very beginning.
Yeah. Like why do you think you were the person
the first project?
Yeah. Like, why do you think you were the person that got that opportunity?
Well, actually, I'm glad you worded it that way because then it kind of reminded me maybe of the hard work or going above and beyond or any of that. When I first heard about the project, I immediately started making a self promo kit,
Yeah.
and I just rewrapped cold brew coffee and built the crate for it and branded it all my stuff, and went and dropped it off, hoping they would see it.
Just
And,
as like an intro or
yeah,
as a follow up.
of like, I would love to work with you.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cheesy copy at the time, but it had funny stuff on it.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that, if I recall, the first person that had reached out to them
About employment or
about
anything?
doing the Brewhalla project.
Wow.
Because I just went in and be like, I want to do the logo. Like,
Sure. Oh, it's just like one piece of the
start
puzzle.
there, and then it grew from there, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was like mind blowing to me that like you have all these creatives in town, you have little studios and agencies, and nobody had proactively been like,
Yo, that's dope. I wanna do
this
that.
work.
Yeah.
Like that was just mind blowing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to think that me being proactive, excited, and me reaching out to them
Right.
and being the first one to do it was
It's a huge
a huge
project.
part of it.
Yeah.
Because even looking back, a lot of my work up till that point was, I don't want to say corporate-y, but it was more the cleaner, safer type
Yeah.
identity work. So I don't think they necessarily could see like, oh,
This is going to translate.
he
Yeah.
can pull off what we need. But I knew I could, but so it had to have been kind of that
Kick.
that first intro of
Yeah.
an enthusiasm of like, I want to do this for you.
Right.
Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust me, I got it. Don't worry. Don't ask me
Yeah.
questions. I'm a little curious as to, do you think they would have gone with an agency, or do you think they were just open to whatever kind of
No.
fit the bill?
I don't think they would have gone that level. I think they would have found like a
Someone
solo,
internal to come in and own it.
like another freelancer or a solopreneur type person, just because they were small. They still, even though they're doing such a huge project, felt, like a small scrappy company.
Yeah.
So we'll work with another small scrappy
Right.
company.
Can be
or
on
person.
boots on the ground, grind it
Yeah.
out, like be close to the
And they're,
process.
of course, going to be as smart with their money as they can.
Totally.
I was doing
Well,
the scariest project ever. And so
I don't even want to know what some of the agencies would have proposed for
gosh,
that.
I do like to think back a little bit though, and maybe they realize that of like, because pretty quick I became like an employee
Right. They were like, we gotta.
instead of, but I think
Bill
like if
her.
I freelanced this whole project and did all of this same stuff, it would have been a very, very expensive project.
I'm not really deep in that world, but I could off the cuff, I can imagine.
Like I said, the time there in the evenings on a scissor lift,
Right. Like
putting
you're
stuff up.
putting
and
stuff up. Like you're not
that's
just
a lot of
sitting-
man hours, not
Yeah.
just on the computer. And
Yeah.
again, all the exploration of stuff that none of them even saw of trying.
You hours,
till I
probably
found,
days of
Yeah.
time spent.
till I found that look and like,
Right.
this is it.
Mm-hmm. And then you have to communicate that to
Yeah.
them, how you understand that, how you came to that point, and why it fits for
Yeah.
the brand.
Yep.
So, if say this was the end of a documentary right here, and it's kind of present day, and Nathaniel's staring at a blank canvas, right, for a new beer label, piece of merch. What story are you really trying to make visible in current day work with what you're creating now?
I'm trying to think of something like inspiring or like motivating. Hey, reword it a little bit. In a way.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my brain.
Yeah, I mean, in present day, if we're trying to wrap up and accumulate everything we've talked about, what maybe are you creating for now? Is it for a better future for home life? Is it to help continue to build the
Okay,
businesses that you're involved in? What maybe internally is Nathaniel being driven by now, and what you're
Gotcha.
creating, and what does that mean for you?
That helps. There's kind of like a few buckets. One, I truly do want to work on stuff that makes Fargo better and cooler. And that's why I still, even if the budget doesn't line up, I would probably choose a local project over something bigger somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that I want to make, we all kind of internally have this goal of like making Drecker, Brewhalla, and maintaining, I think what it is, like the coolest draw in our city.
Absolutely.
And keeping that bar crazy high. And personally, like the easy answer of just keep evolving and progressing and whatever it is I find creative and I'm doing. You know, like the stuff I did last year to me looks so wildly different than the stuff I'm already doing this year. And I'm just like going with wherever that goes. It's kind of those three things. And a little bit too, not to get sappy, but a little having a kid changes. You look at what you're doing through their eyes a little bit of like, I want my son to be like, man, my dad made really cool things. Like that's what he did for a living. Like I want to live up to that too.
I mean, how cool that all of it's so much more readily available to document now than it ever was.
But you know the truth though is like father-son thing. He's gonna be like, hey, didn't your dad do that logo? And he's gonna be, oh yeah.
Yeah,
like
it
you
was
know,
lame.
You
it was
know how
stupid.
it goes. Like,
yeah,
that old,
you're so weird.
No one stays at that old hotel anymore.
We just whatever nowadays.
Yeah.
One last legacy question here around, if somebody was to look at your unfinished portfolio, your finished work now, the products and merch and events, is there a certain like thread that you'd maybe want them to be able to visualize or feel through a sense of like the culmination of all of your maybe current and past work?
I mean, I would love for people to look at it and be like, it's always got a fun element to it. Everything I'm thinking of is kind of cliche of like, it was always slightly unexpected in a creative way of like, I wouldn't have thought of that. You know, like I try to always find that lane of showing something to somebody that is unexpected. Yeah, I don't have like a beautiful ender for that other than like just that you can see joy in what I'm doing. You know, that because you can see some creatives, designers and whatnot where it's you kind of get that sense of like, do you even love this? You know, do you just do it because you know, I would hope it comes through that, man, he was having fun doing this, or liked it or loved it.
And when we think about that funness of it, do you think that your current your current main stake in Drecker and Brewhalla or maybe the main instillers of that, or has that always been something that you've kind of held back in the maybe hopping in a van at 18 and hanging out with a buddy days, or you know, maybe when did that kind of come into play for you as a culmination factor?
I think it has always been there.
Yeah.
In different forms. I really do. Because like even thinking back to the BMX skate world and stuff that I was so in was because it was fun.
Yeah. Same
with music and all that. It was just
right.
Maybe I just had the question the other day of like, if you had what would the name of your book be? It was like a creative exercise of like your autobiography.
Right.
And now I'm gonna butcher it, but I came up with like the pursuit of fun or something like that.
Sure.
Because I really do think that's beyond the skill and the passion. It really has kind of been the pursuit of fun.
Yeah, that's been your bet.
Just as much as the skill thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
let's dive into.
Oh, is this the?
It's the final question. So from Marlo Anderson, he's the guy from National Day Calendar.
Oh, okay.
So like all the days, like, you know, National Coffee Day, National Beer Day, he's the dude that owns it. We've kind of figured out how that works, and he owns the domain, and he's the one that kind of licenses those things out. Like he had met with like Lady Gaga and met
Really?
Biden and the CEO of Volkswagen when they did the big launch for their new refresh of the van when that came
Oh,
out a few
cool.
years ago. So he has in here, how has your favorite food impacted your career path?
Oh my gosh, that's not what I was expecting. Favorite food impacted my career.
Yeah, your favorite food impacted your career path. And what is your favorite food? Which is a
Oh
very
man,
tough question to answer, I know.
like I know it's the last thing you want to hear, but I don't have a favorite food. Like
Yeah.
I intentionally like finding the foods I've never had.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I love traveling. It's just
Right,
eating
right.
at new places.
Through cuisines and culture.
But to make it fun,
Yeah.
let's say it's beer,
Okay. That counts.
because some of the best moments I've had and the most creative moments, the most inspiring things have been just BSing with my other creative friends at bars
Yeah.
and kind of dreaming things that, yeah, we're probably never going to do them, but
But
there's that hint of like, what if we did this? What
Yeah.
if we started this agency? What if we created this company? And,
yeah.
you know, if you look at it that way, like made some big decisions over beers with friends in
Yeah.
just dive bars. And, you know, beer, you could sustain off beer for quite a while. So I'm going to consider that food.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I hadn't really put much thought into how impactful some of those hangout moments
Mm-hmm.
in dive bars, drinking shitty beers.
Yeah. You don't know until you look back and think, wow,
Yeah.
what if I didn't go out that night, or I didn't hang
Oh,
with that
totally,
person,
like-
or they didn't stay for one extra beer, or whatever it was, or maybe I should have left after that last beer,
Yeah,
or
or-
whatever.
Yeah, there's just so many, especially your creative friends. You get on that we call it like the what if.
Yeah.
And like,
Those are
what if you did
riff
this?
hard.
And then you riff on, and
Yeah.
before you know it, you've brainstormed a whole fictitious company,
Yeah.
or decided you're switching jobs, or
Mhm.
you're, you know,
Yeah.
like that's, yeah, when you put it that way, that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a good one.